Good afternoon, 10-Minute Trainer Network. Krista Steenbergen here, and I just have something on my mind today. I know that donors are taking longer and longer to decide to make their gifts, and I know that is frustrating to nonprofits. But I want to talk a little bit today about the obstacles to giving and ways that your organization might be able to overcome those. There are a few trends in the world that are contributing to these. There are way more choices in all areas. Even if we're buying a loaf of bread, we have all these different choices. Anytime you have too many choices, there is decision fatigue. You want to understand all the facts. You want to make sure you make the right decision. So, in addition to that, people are feeling way more connected to societal problems. We have access to all the information. There's more binary thinking. Back years ago, dad made the decisions. The man of the house was the decision maker. That is no longer the case. Families are making decisions together. Children and parents are making decisions together, and couples are making decisions as couples. And when there are more opinions involved, everything takes longer. So we're also feeling less connected to the world in meaningful ways. Because everything is online now, we figured out how to do everything electronically, and that keeps us from always feeling connected to the world. And in addition to that, donors still want to make impactful and intentional gifts. They want to be a part of the gift that they make. So there was a revolutionary study done recently, and it's very fascinating, and a lot of it is common sense. A lot of it you probably know, but there were a few things that I had maybe not considered. And this study was done by the Gates Foundation, Arabella Advisors, the National Center for Family Philanthropy, and an organization called Ideas 42. So they came up with this study and identified the top 10 reasons that are kind of impediments for donors to make a gift to your organization. And the first one is that there are too many choices for giving and there are too many places to give. Okay, with planned giving on the scene, we have so many opportunities to structure our gift the very best way that will be most beneficial to our family. Gosh, what a blessing. But we can give insurance policies, we can give property, we have donor advised funds now. But donors want to make sure they make the best decision for their family. So they want to have all the facts before they decide how to do their philanthropic giving. And in addition to that, there are more nonprofits in the world than there have ever been. And because there are more nonprofits in the world than there have ever been, there are choices for your dollars. Some of those are obvious. We know what we're passionate about. But there may be more than one organization that is serving different populations that we're passionate about. So donors want to be sure they're picking the right organization and that they're making the gift in the right way. And it just takes more homework than it used to. Wealth managers have a great deal of burdensome and tedious things that they have to know and study. And honestly, philanthropic giving is not at the top of that list. So a lot of times, this is number 2, by the way, a lot of times donors have to do their own homework. They need to learn about the different ways of investing. They need to learn which investments are the best way to make their philanthropic gifts. And they want to know those things before they make the decision. So the number 3 is that societal problems are so big that donors think there is no way they can make a difference. And while that may be true, it just creates a lack of urgency for them. If I can't fix it, then there's no big hurry for me to do my small part. I would argue that is not true, but I can see the mindset. So number 3 is that they really don't think they can make a real difference. So there's no sense of urgency. Number 4 is that donor advised funds are growing. And when you create a donor advised fund, there is no urgency to make your gifts, because when the fund is created, you get the tax advantage then. It's a lovely tool for donors to have that money And when they come across an organization that they're passionate about, they know exactly what they want to create for that organization, and they have those funds in place, and they've already gotten the tax advantages for those. Man, can you imagine the fun they have? But if they're in the process of creating the donor advised fund, there's no urgency for them to decide where that money might go in years to come. So number 6 is a fear of attention and scrutiny. We all know of a nonprofit that's had scandal. The executive director was skimming money. Gifts weren't going to the things that they were designated for. While this is extremely, extremely unusual, it does happen. And you've heard that one bad apple spoils the bunch. Well, guess what? It's true. It keeps donors from trusting us. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to make a gift and then find out that that gift is not what they should have done. Number 7, families fear discord and the uncomfortable beginning of the conversation about philanthropy. So, Grandma and Grandpa have grown this wonderful, wonderful business. They sold it, they've made their fortune, and they have this fund in place. Well, the kids and grandkids know that they're part of the family. They've talked to them about maybe if they didn't sell the business, how they want it to be run. Maybe if they created a foundation, how they want that to go forward. Those kinds of things. So all of these conversations happen within a group setting. So a lot of people have input. And if the family is comfortable with the way things are, perhaps they don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation because they are afraid of what the response might be. They want everybody to be happy. We all want everybody to be happy, and we don't always want that discord. So that is number 7, another reason that donors are waiting longer to make their gift, or maybe choosing not to. So number 8 is that people are uncomfortable with risk. So none of us wants to do anything that we shouldn't. And the market is sometimes all over the place. We have a recession roughly, history tells us roughly once every 10 years. And, so none of us wants to invest in something and then find out that our investment is worthless. So they're going to do all their homework to make sure that your nonprofit is going to take the best care of their money. So, number 9, we have 2 more here. We might be able to get this in under 10 minutes. People are operating in a scarcity mindset because of the times we're living in. Gosh, we all read the headlines. We know nonprofits are somewhat living in a time of scarcity. They're worried about their future funding. They're worried how the government is going to go forth with funding for nonprofits. We had a pandemic, for heaven's sake. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we didn't know what was going to happen. And so a lot of people changed jobs, lost jobs. They didn't know the future of their income. And so nobody wants to operate from less. I mean, they're used to their lifestyle and they're worried about scarcity. They're worried about their investment not meaning anything. And number 10, since millennials have passed their parents in the amount of giving, we know that people are creating their wealth early and they don't have time to deal with the conversation. Think about that. They don't have time to deal with the conversation. A young financial advisor, he's running, he's gunning, he might have kids at home, wife has a career, they're busy, and they're amassing this wealth, and they don't have time to sit down and talk about where they might want to make their philanthropic gifts. And that's where you come in. I know that all of these are huge barriers. All of these are things that you might or might not have the answer to. But honestly, this is where you come in, having those intimate, important conversations and developing a real relationship with your donors. Because you can say to them, so what is making you feel uncomfortable? What kind of research can I do for you? Obviously, you can't have a conversation with their family, but you can send them the returns that they've had or that you've had for the last 10 years in your nonprofit organization. Here's how we dealt with the last recession, and here's what kind of return we got. Years ago, when the market was down, the recession after 9/11, all the funds were pretty much operating underwater for our foundation. And so when we got ready to send out endowment reports that year, I said, hey, can I take my donors' endowment reports and deliver them face to face? So I took those donor reports and I got the best reception from these people. They knew that I was trustworthy. I'd formed that relationship with them. And I remember one of them looking at his endowment report and going, it's doing better than my personal investments. They were so appreciative that I cared to let them know where things stood instead of just sending out those reports and letting the chips fall where they may. You can do research about different ways of giving and how they might be beneficial. You can, if they give you an amount, you can look at the different ways, vehicles that might be the best way for them to give. You know how many kids they have. You know what ages they are. If you know your donors that well, you can do the research up front and make it easier for them to have that conversation and make the decision to make a gift. Don't be afraid to make those close relationships and have those intimate conversations with your donors. It's important, and you make it easy for them to make a gift to your organization. So every one of my videos, you will find out that those close relationships are the most important thing in your nonprofit. So never forget that. Everyone wants you to treat them the way you would want to be treated. Just remember that going forward, and have a great year.